5 things that we love about atheists. Hi, I'm Jonathan Pritchett. Welcome to Trinity Radio. Along with me today is...
Braxton Hunter.
Of course. And Braxton, you have something you're dying to say, do you not?
Well, we're going to talk about love today, as well as take questions if and when they come in. And when it comes to love, I want to just say that we're not here talking about romantic love. There are various types of love. Even in the Bible, there are different words for love. We're not talking about romantic love, but I had a very truncated understanding of love, Jonathan, when I was much younger as a child. And it was very much like, did you ever see Space Ghost Coast to Coast?
Of course.
I think we're in a sliver of individuals in our audience that will have seen that, because most of them are going to be older or younger than Space Ghost Coast to Coast would allow for. Yes. Nevertheless, on one episode, the character Brack, do you remember Brack? Mm-hmm. He had a song. You know, my mother called me Bracky as a kid, and Brack's song was, "Hey, Bracky Wacky." And anyway, Brack said this is what he understood love to be. They asked him what love was. He said love is when a man and a woman go out to a restaurant and the man orders a big piece of meat and the woman orders a salad, and that's what love is. And it's very truncated, but you know something? As a child, I think I did think of love as being this touchy-feely sort of thing, mostly romantic, and obviously didn't understand all that went along with that, even with men and women. But when it comes to atheists, I have a different sort of love, and I love you all the same. But I'm not saying I love you all in the same way. I love you all collectively. And as a result of that, we have said about this show many times, we are the channel that loves atheists. Pritchett didn't come up with that. I came up with that. I'm not sure he would have come up with that.
I love everybody.
He would have been the channel that loves everybody. And so, but because of me...
Well, the Bible says to not show favoritism, so I don't want to, I don't want to
Well, as you have yourself pointed out, Pritchett, we're not saying that we only love atheists. We're just saying we love atheists. When you say you love me, are you saying you don't love everybody else?
Sometimes. Sometimes you're the only person that gets me. You know what I mean? So, I mean...
Of course I know what you mean. I'm the only person that gets you.
There's times where I just do not... Except for my family, of course. But, you know, if everyone died but my family and you, and we'll let you keep your family because I don't want to entertain you.
You'd be
all
fine.
the time. Yeah. There are those days.
We'll hope the other staff and faculty at Trinity don't hear about that.
Right. Or all of our viewers are like, what? But yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes you get in those things where you want the whole world. Nah, but that doesn't mean not love. I love you. I just don't want you to exist.
Yeah. So but you know, we've done 10 questions for atheists, and by the way, it's coming that time again. We're going to do the 2022 10 questions for atheists. However, this show is 5 things that I love about online atheists. Now, let me go ahead and give a caveat.
Dr. Brown did kind of steal your thunder because he had about 6 or 7 questions for atheists here recently.
People used to do it all the time, and people still do it. It isn't my thing. It's just that for our channel, it's one of the things that's gotten most views and responses.
Why don't we ever do questions for Christians?
We can. Would you like to do that?
Yes, I'll come up with, what is it, 10?
10. I always do 10. You don't have to do 10.
Yeah,
you can do 2 or 3 or even 11.
Yeah.
So
we'll do as many as I can come up with.
So when I'm talking about online atheists, I'm not saying that in a pejorative way, although I'm not saying that I've never said it in a way that sounded pejorative or even meant it in a way that might have sounded pejorative when I was a younger and jerkier version of myself. However, I love the atheists that we have, and I'm specifying online atheists because I'm not talking about the philosophy of religion crowd. I'm not talking about the atheist down the street who doesn't really think too much about this. He just lives his life, but he happens to not believe in God. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that are interacting with in the communities that we're in. And what do I love about these people? Well, and yes, honestly, atheist, I think there's only one of you, says atheists need more love in Christian space. You're about to get it.
Yes.
You're getting it right now.
Yes, but we could turn that around and say,
of course,
Christians do kind of
Don't do that. Don't do that. This is for them. Today is their day.
Yes, but reciprocity is always a good thing.
That's true.
And we should always appeal to the better nature of the better angels of their nature, or whatever, however you say that.
They don't think there are angels, so they don't think they have any. But they do
Also,
have...
you're saying that they're not good people.
I'm not. They think that they're just... all right, let's go on to the next thing. They just don't believe what we believe about angels. That's all I'm saying.
But it's an expression.
Yeah. All right. Nicodemus, thank you for acknowledging your love for me as well publicly. That really touches my heart. Here we go. The first thing that I love about... And this does not exhaust the things I love about atheists. And by the way, as I say on the thumbnail and in the title, we're not giving the churchy answers where we say, well, we love that they're made in God's image and we love them because, we're not doing that. Those things are all true.
Jesus says we have to.
Those things are all true. Yeah, Jesus says we have to. We would love them anyway. But here's the thing. All of that's true, and I don't want to take away from that. And that is, for us, the thing that ultimately matters in the ultimate sense. And we talk about that all the time. But on this show, I want our atheist audience to see that we're not doing that. And here they are. Number one, this is what I like. Online atheists are often interested in talking about many of the same things I am. I appreciate that. Hey, the famous philosopher Bono said, all you need is one thing with someone to get along. Well, I don't actually think that's true. It depends on what that one thing is, right? But the point is, it is true that we have this in common, that we like to talk about the same subjects. We're interested in some of the same fields. We've read some of the same books, that sort of thing. We watch a lot of the same channels. And so there is a sense of solidarity. I've often said that, though I don't encourage being entertained by blasphemy, sometimes when atheists respond to me or to one of my friends, even if they're being kind of snarky, I sometimes think it's kind of funny. And the reason is because there's not much entertainment in this realm we're in. Right. And so when it crops up, even if it's an atheist channel, sometimes I think it's funny. And that just speaks to the fact that...
Even if they're making fun of us, it's funny.
Fun of us, yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Because we have a sense of humor about it.
I have laughed openly at some of you talking about us.
Yeah, I mean, just... I have no problem. See, that's the thing. You can take subject matter seriously without taking yourself seriously, and that's something that I appreciate about a lot of the atheists out there who don't take themselves so seriously. Even if they take the subject matter seriously, they know that it's okay to laugh at ourselves. Sometimes we are ridiculous people. Yeah.
And I've even sat and listened to I said this when we did the 10 questions for atheists the first time around in 2020. Both Shannon Q and Godless Engineer John, they both brought out a point that I appreciated. No, you have to go watch it to find out what it is. What are you talking about? But they're in a playlist. You can listen to all of them. And but they brought out something that I thought, hey, that's a really good point. And so you know what? That was, I said so. And so I don't know why I said that.
And atheists need to understand why you appreciate this about it, because you have to understand. There's not a lot of people and I talked about this in a recent video that should be coming up. There's not a whole lot of people within the realm of people who exist in the United States of America that are even interested in having these kind of conversations at all. And in fact, when Braxton, you've probably found this, or myself, or any of the atheists, when they start talking about the subjects that they're interested in that are related to these worldview questions, all of you have seen eyes begin to glaze over, and oh brother, here we go again with that stuff, right? And sometimes they don't. They just that's all interesting, but there is, like in your case, somebody trying to watch the Tennessee Volunteers play football, and here you are you call it sports ball, have no idea what's going on, and you want to talk about worldview issues.
Yes.
And whether they're Christians or atheists, they're like, after the game, or wait till halftime, Braxton. So not everyone is actually interested in these kind of things. So when you do find people who are interested, whether they're in agreement with you
there,
or not in agreement with you, you have at least found your people who will talk to you about stuff that you're interested in when literally almost no one else will.
Right. That's a really good point. All right, so there's number one. And hey, get your questions ready. Ask your questions if you want them, or make your statements, whatever. And but try to put that, either tag us or at Trinity Radio, or
and what we're talking about here with number one, the atheists. Atheists are interested in big worldview questions. They're interested in at least the theological beliefs of Christians and maybe Muslims and others. And we're not talking about the hacks out there that are just trying to get spews for views, as Coach Greg would say. They don't really have any interest in any of this stuff. They're just trying to be vulgar or whatever else. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about real atheists, right? Not the pretenders out there who are using worldview issues as a way to rant on YouTube.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the real atheists who are actually interested in this stuff.
Dude, be nice, Pritchett. Okay.
I am to the atheists, to the real atheists.
So here we go. Number 2. This is the second thing. I wrote this list. It doesn't mean that Pritchett agrees. They seem to think, number 2, they seem to think that whether Christianity is true is an actually important question. Now, sometimes people will say otherwise, and of course there are exceptions to the rule. I'm talking about generally speaking, and I realize that atheism is not monolithic, but appreciate 2 things. That number 1, I do encounter commonalities across the atheists that I interact with, and also appreciate that number 2, I'm trying to say positive things. I'm saying positive things, and so don't give me too hard a time with that atheism is not monolithic thing. But many atheists seem to care about, you'll hear sometimes people say, well, even if Jesus did rise from the dead, or even if Christianity is true, so what? Doesn't mean you have to worship this God. But most people, they might agree with sentiments there, but the truth is, if they're in this space making videos, commenting, looking up and listening to this content, they at least think it's interesting and important.
Well, sure. If the claims of Christianity that God exists and God raised Jesus from the dead, yeah, if that happened, that's kind of important to know.
But notice I didn't say they seem to think that whether God exists is an important question, because even though most of them do probably, many of them will say, well, whether some deistic or theistic God, who cares?
Yeah,
who knows?
But you get God and Jesus because God raised Jesus from the dead.
But if I say Christianity,
and if that happened, that's important to investigate, right?
Yeah.
Because these claims, so they do think that it is an important question, because other theological claims like judgment and punishment and all of that other stuff comes into play, and well, if there's something to those claims, and a lot of people seem to believe those claims, atheists would say, yeah, let's investigate that, see if there's anything to those claims, to see if those people, billions of them on planet Earth are correct, because that's important. And if they're not correct, well, these billions of people are wrong and they believe this stuff, and we should help them have true belief. That's their thinking, right? Because I think some atheists sincerely understand the importance of the Christian question, the question of Jesus. But if it doesn't go our way as far as how they see the evidence and all of that stuff, I think some of them generally believe they are helping people out of false beliefs, which is partly why we evangelize, because we want to help atheists and people of other faiths out of false beliefs in the real world. We all have that same goal, that we want people to believe true things, and we believe that Christianity is true. They don't, but at least I think some of them anyway, or many of them, they come from a place of wanting to help. People.
And this is part of the point of not saying theism itself, but saying Christianity, is because many atheists will say that whether there's a God, I don't know, but Christianity, I believe, is false. And even if they won't say they believe it's false, they'll often say that Christianity as it exists in the modern West is actually really bad for politics and bad for this and that and the other thing.
There's actually some atheists who don't even say that.
I know there aren't, but I'm saying that why do they think it's important? Why will many of them think that it's important whether Christianity is true? Well, even if they don't have any interest in salvation or whatever thing like that, they still think that it impacts the here and now.
Yeah, and there are atheists who think that on the whole, for Western civilization and the development of it through the centuries, Christianity has been a positive effect. They recognize that. So not all atheists think that Christianity, like religion poisons everything and stuff. That was, late 90s, early 2000s, new atheism. But some of the more reflective atheists have moved on from the new atheism, can appreciate the contributions to culture that Christianity has made for the good.
Yeah, amen. Pritchett, I'll admit that sometimes when you're talking, I have to look at what's going on the screen, and I miss
I
it
don't
out.
listen to you.
But
when
you
talk
can know.
either.
Well, but see, I will give you honor in a way that you will not give me honor, and that is that I will listen back to this later to see if we said anything crazy, and when I listen back, I will hear your solid points, and often amen. Or oh me, the amen or oh me.
Here's why I don't listen back to this later. Okay?
Yeah.
Because
you listen to me when I'm talking.
Well, I'm here for it now, and I do actually pay attention to what you're saying, so that I'm waiting for you to finish so that I can say something. Yeah. But actually, unlike What Do You Mean and David Wood, and even Mike Winger on occasion, and who else? Well, anyway,
the Christian apologetics people.
Well, no, mainly What Do You Mean with David Wood.
Okay.
And then sometimes Mike Winger. My wife really loves
what?
Mike Winger. they won't watch Trinity Radio that often.
Do what?
They won't watch us at my house. Whereas you can watch Trinity Radio.
I thought you were saying Mike Winger, and what do you mean wouldn't watch Trinity Radio?
No. At my house, the reason why I don't watch this later is because even though my wife and son and daughter are thoroughly entertained by John McCrae, they're thoroughly entertained.
They're not entertained by you.
They're thoroughly entertained. Even some, and Misty really likes a lot of Mike Winger's content and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Trinity Radio is like, a lot of what y'all talk about, yeah, it's important. But it's just we live with you.
That is I've seen with certain people that as I get to know them, there's this weird thing where it's like, well, I talk to them all the time. Why do I want to watch their video? And it's like, Braxton, that's stupid. They have prepared something really thoughtful. And once I realize that, it's like, no, you don't know what they think about this. And they shouldn't have to sit down and have a conversation with you on the phone sometime and explain to you all their thoughts about this. Watch their video.
Well, okay. In Misty's defense, though, Mike
I'm not
Winger
getting on to
covers
Misty.
the
She
Bible,
shouldn't have to watch us.
Right? More of the Bible stuff,
Yeah.
right? And she's really interested in Bible stuff. And then, of course, John McCrae is more into, he talks a lot of cultural stuff and he's more entertaining. Let's just face facts. There's a reason why his channel is bigger than ours, right? So, but I don't watch us because I do stuff like in the evenings with family, and it's nothing personal. It's just that they would rather watch other stuff anyway.
I don't in any way take it personally. My wife doesn't watch our show either. All right, Jim Amberg, $20. Thank you from Jim Amberg, our channel angel. You guys rock. Keep it up. Also, Slam RN is having a rough day, so I hope she knows that some stranger from the internet thinks she is a huge addition to the Christian music world. She
absolutely is.
I hope she keeps it up as well.
She is a Slam RN.
Amen.
Is
Thank
a
you.
tireless worker on behalf of Christian YouTubers everywhere that we are very much appreciate.
And there has been a question here of whether or not we are in the same space, and we are in the same space. We just did some more work on John. It's not done. It's in progress.
I really like the green screen with the bricks and all of that, but apparently people in the comment section said no.
So anyway,
if I like it, it's bound to be tacky. That's what I've learned. If I like it, you've gone wrong.
Except your friends and loved ones. All right, now, New Testament theologist says, I'm looking forward to having y'all on the New Testament theologist.
He's not allowed. He's from California.
Talk
He's
about
not
Romans
allowed
8.
to say y'all. That's not a California thing.
I love it when people. I don't mind if he. What do you call it?
Cultural appropriation.
Culture. If he appropriates my culture, I don't mind. I love it when Californians talk more like Tennesseans.
But he's a trans Texan. Like, he really wants to be in Texas, and who wouldn't? California is a train wreck. But he really wishes that he lived in Texas, as many of us do. But
the Faithiest Atheist says, and thank you for the $10.
Thank you.
Love that guy. The reason anyone gets into this game is that they believe in moral and epistemic, or both, standards that ought to apply to everyone. Religion and atheism are just two categories within this realm.
Yes, for those who get into this for those reasons. There are, I think, in both apologetics and atheism, both, Richard, there are an increasing number of grifters. Let's just be honest about that. There are.
Grifters?
Yes. But I do believe that in general, those who are sincere, yes, that is true.
I've been told that we're grifters because people can give us money.
Well, but you're a gish galloper, right?
That's a whole different thing.
Oh.
It can both be true about the same person.
Used car salesman.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I'm trying to get people's money.
We've heard it all.
That's why we're offering, that's why people can go, that's why we built a school in 1969 before either of us were born, so that people could pay and go here.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right.
Hey, you hired me. It's your fault.
Yeah. I feel like we're clipping here. I'm sorry about that. All right. Number 3. Are we just on number 3? All right, here we go. When we disagree on, and you kind of hit on this, when we disagree on social issues, I can usually locate undergirding virtues I can appreciate and agree with. Now, let me speak to this. I know you know what I mean, but let me speak to this. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think that, for example, when someone says, hey, these women need to be able to have abortions because blah, 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 that they have to have freedom of choice. It's her body. It's all these kind of things. Obviously, this is an issue where I could not disagree with the pro-choice issue almost any more than I do.
Right.
Okay. and you've heard me say what I think about abortion very straightforwardly is the most wicked thing we put our seal of approval on as a society. That's my opinion. All those things, and I know that gets people upset too. But here's the thing: even in that, not with everybody, there are some genuinely bad actors. But many people who are advocating for the pro-choice position, underneath all of that, there is something of concern. Now, not for all of them. Again, for some of them, it's selfish concern. But for some, it's a concern for women. It's a concern for women's health. It's a concern for women's freedom. It's a concern not to go backwards in terms of women's rights. And so even though the outplaying of how that looks with the abortion issue to me is horrific, at least the undergirding thing that gets them there, I think that's right. I think the intuition about that is right. I think that then the way of getting it, that's why in my book, Letters from Ignorantia, I talk about how we all have an intuition, and our intuitions at some level are often more or less the same. But what happens is our intuition, imagine it like a device, like an antenna for a radio or something, and it gets bent by the world it's in oftentimes. And it needs to be realigned. And of course, as Christians, we think that the way you realign that is through a relationship with God, but that won't surprise me.
And this is what I was saying earlier about genuinely wanting to help people that they think are believing false things as well. It comes from a good place because, you and I, we understand when non-Christians or atheists or whoever, when they say Christians or this particular church or whatever has genuinely severely wronged somebody.
Yeah.
You and I have seen that from this side of it too.
Yeah.
And I understand the impulse to want to help people, and they think, well, you were at that church because fundamentally you believed these false things that led you to that church, and this is what can happen. And they're not going to say this happened. All Christians are evildoers or whatever, abusers or whatever else. But they genuinely see that the root problem of that was the false beliefs that put you in that dangerous community in the first place, or around those dangerous people. And I think even they're wanting to counter Christianity, they do see it as liberating people from either an abusive belief system or maybe an oppressive belief system that is inhibiting their human freedom and expression of who they are.
And I'm going to tell you, there are some Christian apologists who probably think that no, these things you're saying, no, it's a facade. And I just think that's to treat people like they're one-dimensional.
Well, I those people exist. I acknowledge that
those people are definitely there.
They're out there.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about them.
Right.
We're talking about real atheists.
And
we're not talking about shock jockey, I just want a big YouTube channel, so I'm going to spew nonsense for views. Yeah, we're not talking about those people.
Okay, number
Clowns.
4.
Yeah.
Here it is. Well, this one you'll think, well, yeah, but duh. They are often passionate about our differences. Now, why do I care? Well, it is true that I enjoy talking to people who are very laid back, because I can be laid back. And like with you, me and you might talk, but even us, we get pretty passionate and stuff. Here's what that tells me. It kind of tells me that, and we've already said that it matters to them, but it tells me that it matters to them enough that they're willing to fight for it. So yeah, okay, maybe there's something wrong with this list. Number 4 and number 1 are pretty much, or number 2 and number 1. I don't know. Maybe it's not a good list, but something I appreciate is that passion. A lot of times in our culture right now, there's a move to make things more milquetoast and more conciliatory and more blah, blah, blah. But sometimes you just got to be able to be straightforward. And they don't mind being straightforward, and they aren't surprised when you're straightforward much of the time.
Yeah, I appreciate that as well. I like people who are passionate about whatever there is, like people who are passionate about fitness. I appreciate them about that. People who are passionate about fishing, people who are passionate about whatever it is that they are into, whatever their interests are. You like to see that more so than you like to see people who are apathetic to everything.
Apathyism is the real problem. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, and there are a lot of people both in apologetics and in atheist communities that they really have a sense of, it's as if there's nothing at stake. This is just for highbrow fodder. Mm-hmm. It's really not as highbrow as a lot of people wish to think it is. In fact, there's more depth to understanding why fishermen choose certain fish. I had no idea until you watch these people who are passionate about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And it is actually more enthralling than listening to
Yeah,
people
you do
talk
get
about it.
passionate
Yeah.
alongside someone's passion.
Yeah.
If someone's being passionate about this thing,
Yeah,
maybe I need to care
and when
about this
apologetics
thing.
and theology is old hat to you, and you're watching somebody really into bait and tackle, and you're like, my goodness, there's so much there, and
Yeah.
you're just like, and it can awaken that Arkansan in me that wants to fish in beautiful rivers, not the Ohio River that's splitting us from Kentucky.
You're an Arkansasian.
but on the White River.
All right, look
fishing.
here.
And I know there's an atheist out there that can amen trout fishing on the White River.
There is.
There's
That's
got to be
another
one
point of
atheist out there
connection.
somewhere.
All you need is one thing, according to St. Bono. Now listen, super chat from the channel Angel again.
Wow, we so much appreciate that.
I watched an old episode, and it is really fantastic how much weight you guys have lost. Well, if you watched an episode from like 3 months ago, you might say that about me. But if you watched one from about 4 years ago, man, I looked fantastic.
Yeah,
it was Pritchett that was the problem.
Yeah, I was the plumpy guy. And then there was that weird period where I started to shrink. I decreased so that you may increase.
Yes.
Kind of how that happened. Yeah. So.
But at least your head didn't roll later.
Yeah.
All right. Number 5. They, online atheists, find and present interesting challenges that encourage me to learn more in my favorite areas.
Yes.
It doesn't. Now I'm going to be honest here, straightforwardly honest. I'm not going to worry about anybody's feelings. And since I'm speaking to an amorphous blob and not a particular atheist content creator or something, it shouldn't bother you anyway. But it's very rare that you encounter something it's not rare that if you go down the philosophy religion route, you find some new objection to a premise of a premise or something like that. That can happen, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. But occasionally, just out here in the wild, you'll run into a video by someone that maybe you underappreciated their thoughts or whatever.
Yeah,
and they'll throw something out there, and you'll be like, huh.
Yeah, and you can find that with, that's why I have a soft spot in my heart for Presbyterians, right? I mean, not these Reformed Baptist pretenders. No, they don't hardly ever write anything compelling, but like real Calvinists, Presbyterians, like real Reformed people, not you Baptist pretenders. But sometimes you read a really good Presbyterian author, and it'll make you go, there's some mental work I need to put into to see what I think about what he's on about here. I've never really had that experience with the Reformed Baptist types, but the Presbyterians, the thoughtful Calvinists, they'll sometimes have given me pause to go and do further study on certain things and I can appreciate that.
Well, let's go on. I'm glad you said that. That represents personal growth to me. Let's go on to Honestly Atheist, who says, I think, and by the way, this is all question time now. That's the list. 5 things. There's going to be more things one day, but not today. I think it's actually a huge struggle, he says, or I think it's a he, in the non-theistic world to get people to be passionate about our differences. I think there are too many apatheists in the world. I agree. Obviously, that is definitely true on our side. We have Christians who are disinterested in understanding why they believe what they believe, and atheists who are disinterested in why they believe what they believe, and
or atheists who are too disinterested to actually discuss the differences among atheists.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. How come it's like in the theological world, why don't we get 4-point Calvinists arguing with 5-point Calvinists so much? I mean, why is it always the Calvinists and the non-Calvinists or whatever? Well, atheists have disagreements about the nature of reality. Atheism broadly is no gods exist or the lack of a belief, however you want to shake that up, right? But that doesn't mean that for some atheists, they're not making the claim that nothing supernatural exists in that sense, or nothing mystical or something like that. Whereas some are naturalists.
They're not naturalists necessarily,
right? They're not just strictly naturalists. It's like some of them have weird beliefs. How come we don't see those dialogues that often? Right?
Yeah.
That would be to me something I hardly ever watch any of this stuff, right? I watch fitness channels and homesteading channels and news channels and stuff. But I would rather watch 2 atheists who disagree on like metaphysical naturalism than I would another "Does God exist?" debate between a Christian and an atheist. Because I've seen that debate so much that it's just kind of, and I rarely ever hear anything new, so I'm not really interested in. But two atheists dialogue on what they disagree on metaphysics, that would be something that would be super interesting to me. And so maybe go do that.
Yeah, there's a genuine spirit of lethargy in the church as a whole. Yeah, so let's hope that Pritchett, Peter W. says, grows enough to be open to Reformed theology.
I've already been there and done that. And
Do you have the T-shirt? You probably have some Reformed T-shirts.
Well, I mean, I've been.
You used to have a T-shirt that again, back in my rough days, had a parachute with an action figure on it, and it said Calvinism, God's just playing with his action figures.
Well, I mean,
would not say that now.
Somewhere
I would
on
not wear that T-shirt now.
Is that still a thing? Or SoundClick, or somewhere out there in the ether is my from my
your rap rock new metal
the album
anti-abortion
called
song.
Perseverance of the Saints. I mean, I've already done that. It's not, but it's just that I'm sorry, Reformed Baptist people, but just the Presbyterians are better theologians. They just really are. They're just more thoughtful because they're not trying to make Calvinism this one thing within all this other hodgepodge stuff. It's really this really cohesive, covenantal, sacramental. They're not just like, oh, this is the memorial view that Baptists tack on and whatever. I mean, they just have this whole wide range of theology that fits more neatly into than, say, the soteriological Calvinist who doesn't, that's also like John MacArthur. Or Steve Lawson, my old pastor, left behind theology, and I'm being facetious, dispensational stuff, and then this Calvinism. We like this little bit for salvation, but I mean, Calvin himself would just laugh at that whole thing. I mean, it was funny when at the Strange Fire conference, Steve Lawson said that a Calvinist charismatic like Sam Storms or whatever, or Wayne Grudem, is a contradiction in terms. And I'm like, okay, says the dispensational Calvinist. Really? You're going to pick on the charism, and you're a but anyway, I digress. We're talking about our love for
Would you agree that there are a greater proportion of apathetic atheist agnostics in the world than apathetic theists? Well, now, when we talk about an apathetic Christian, there should not, in principle, be a Christian who is apathetic about God's existence or Jesus. There are professing Christians who that's true of, but and here you can say, well, it's not a real Christian. That's what I'm saying. A real Christian. Oh, now they may have seasons where they go through a season where maybe they're not focusing on God, walking with God, to use our terminology, as much as they used to, and so there could be apathy there. But in general, you shouldn't be finding Christians who are apathetic about Christianity. But now, apathetic about what they believe and why, yes, why is particularly why. Now, if you take that subcategory, that is basically the majority of Christianity.
Well, I mean, honestly, atheists, if you listen to atheists for themselves, one of the complaints that I hear from atheists, like internal atheists, is, well, it's hard to get atheists on the same page about anything because they say, contrary to the claims of Christian theists, it's not a worldview. It is. It's a belief about metaphysics, whether they want to acknowledge that or not. But it's not a worldview in terms of politics or in terms of law and order or ethics or any. It's not monolithic on that kind of thing. And so atheists will talk about, well, it's hard to get atheist. We try to start these atheist clubs or whatever, but they don't really ever go anywhere or do anything because it's hard to get atheists on the same page about anything other than just we lack a belief.
Maybe it's a funding problem. I was reading a new article from I never say this guy's name, Alim Shalom or Shazim. I don't know, something. Because I wasn't reading his article, actually. I was reading Hemant Mehta reacting to his article. And what he was saying was, did you read this? No. What he was saying was, this guy was basically saying we need a new atheism. And by the way, for someone who looked up atheism in the news, that every week there's somebody saying we need a new atheism type thing. Yeah. And but this guy was saying, like, basically what we need are things to replace what people lost when they left Christianity, like community, meditation practices, this sort of thing. And Hemant Mehta was coming back saying, no, but we've already got all that stuff. We've tried, we've done, we even had atheist church and all those kinds of things. Well, I don't remember which one, whether it was Hemant or him that said this, but I think that the ultimate thing was, well, what we need are Christians to be more open to promoting this, something like that. And I'm thinking, well, okay, so it's not a funding, it is a funding issue, but it's also an apathy issue, because with Christianity, you at least have this driving mission that is a part of your core, that you're supposed to be serving the king. You're now a part of a kingdom. With atheism, you're not a part of a kingdom. Now, you may not think we are, but we think we are. And you're not a part of a kingdom. You're a part of what?
Yeah, well,
and so you find community, but I don't think there's that driving meta-narrative that stands behind it. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some atheists have figured a way to do that. But I don't think you can ultimately do that.
I sympathize with the atheists that want some kind of community or like that, but I can also sympathize with the atheists who are like, yeah, no, that's not what we do, because we're not a singular, monolithic meta-narrative following people. And so some atheists would say the apathy there is that's a feature, not a bug. Right? And quit trying to rope me into your religious thing. Like the closest thing they had was the new atheism movement, right? And everyone felt like they were on the march and all that. And people were like, yeah, but now we're just a different version of the thing that we left. Right, for those who were formerly Christian, and they're like, "Yeah, I want to out of this business."
And there are scandals still,
right?
Things like that. And there are money-hungry people using ideology to get money, and
just
all
like
that
in
stuff
Christianity,
is still true.
Southern Baptists, they have new atheists or whatever. They have their own, and I get it. People are like, "I don't want to go from this devotion to this devotion," right, or whatever you want to call it. Religion or whatever.
And so, on the scandals point, you do have scandals in the church, but if you've ever said, well, that guy doesn't even believe what he's saying, he's just in it for the money. That's how Christians are. Hold on. If you think he's just in it for the money and doesn't really believe this, that's not a Christian. That's an irreligious person scamming Christians.
Right. But my point is, I understand. So I don't know that. So if Christians being apathetic is actually, that's a bug. That's a problem, right? So I don't know if it's fair to, our atheists may be not apathetic to a lot of things, but their own lack of belief they could be, and that is something that they're probably like, yeah, exactly, and I want it that way, right? So I just saying that they're apathetic about their atheism, that really doesn't seem to me to be a knock against it when that's the whole point of it for some of them.
That's true.
So Christians being apathetic, that is a big problem. Atheists being apathetic, I could understand why they would embrace it.
All right, punch bowl haircut. Hypothetical question, and I'm going to give you a direct answer. Can God create a duplicate of himself? No. So what's something God can't do? Well, we already said God, things that are illogical, that are impossible, that are contradictory things aren't even things. So they're not things God can't do, right?
Yeah.
They're just nonsense. And so this is a nonsense thing. Why? Because of the law of identity. If God created an exact duplicate of himself, then you're saying you have two beings that are exactly the same. In order for them to be different, one has to lack something that the other one has, or have something the other one lacks. If that doesn't happen, you're just talking about the same entity. And these are entities also that are, this entity is one that is maximal in all these ways.
Yeah, you can't have two maximal.
That wipes it out as well.
It's incoherent.
Yeah. Thank you, Punchbowl Haircut. Glad to see that you're around. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. Kevin Henderson, waiting a long time to get this answer. Do you think the proof of aliens would discount the validity of Christianity?
Absolutely not.
Nope.
In fact, we've been talking about this. Has been coming up lately. In fact, you can go watch what we said about this like last week. Was it not last week? But the last show.
Well, I do have actually. We have answered it in multiple shows, and recently we did. But there are 3 episodes. One with me and you that's just audio, and then 2 video of me talking about this issue. But ultimately, no. I don't think my worldview would change none, except that now it has aliens in it. And let's see here. Super chat. Thank you, Faithiest.
Not to be confused with honestly atheists. These are 2 different people.
Yeah, we got the honestly atheist and the Faithiest.
Yes,
atheist.
2 different people.
And those are 2 of my favorite atheists. Enjoying the advantages of communities. This is one area where I borrow from God. Case in point, I'm going to see Lee Strobel at a local church next Sunday. Well,
Here's
now
the thing.
we can easily Google and find out exactly where you are, atheist. And it won't be us you have to worry about. It'll be atheists that don't like how conciliatory you are to us.
Here is what he has found.
Just kidding.
He has found that he would much rather prefer hang out with theists than fellow atheists. Right? That is what he is.
Are you about to tarnish
about
this
his
whole online atheist day?
That could actually be
with
true.
your rhetoric.
Though. I mean,
It could very well be true.
It could very well. It's like Christians have food and stuff at their things, right?
We do know how to do potlucks,
right?
man.
And it's just like I'd rather.
If you've never had a little Hawaiian bread sandwich, if you've never had a little rolled up sandwich thing that I don't even know what you call it, that you can get a whole tray of them at Sam's, but there's something special when it's at church.
That's right.
If you haven't had that, you don't know. You just don't know. Listen, a very good reason to attend church regularly until one of these things happen. It has to be like a country church. You have to do that.
Our church doesn't do potluck.
Yeah, we do like normal food when we.
They'll have
food.
like holiday cookies when it's a particular holiday or something
cookies.
out in the foyer or whatever, and I'm just like, great junk food.
I don't know though.
The church has an obesity problem.
We're in the godless
whatever
north, not really, but we are in the godless north as it's understood, and we know that here they took the tea out, they took the sugar out of the tea and put it in the cornbread
for reasons.
And their coleslaw's all jacked up, and they got all kinds of problems up here. And these folks up here aren't going to do. I don't know that they're going to do potlucks right, and I think they've given up, and that's what we're seeing. But
quitters.
Come visit us. We'll go across the river to Kentucky. We'll find you a potluck.
Yeah.
Actually, don't visit us without telling us who you are. Right down the street from Michael Jones, Atheist. Listen, you've already told us where you're going to be, and now you're telling us where Michael Jones is. All right.
And people are so excited about that. Let me tell you, it's like, I want to go be where they're at.
There are a lot of people who want to go where Michael Jones is at. And if they knew, they'd want to go where the Atheist.
I love Michael Jones.
Mm-hmm. He texted me today. He said,
I love Lee Strobel. But, unless you're like, it's like I could do that or I could not do that. And it's like, I'm going to not do that.
What, go see Michael Jones debate?
It's like, come over to my house after your thing, right? It's like.
Well, listen, Michael Jones was texting with me today and saying, because I told him last week when we were in Florida that I might go to his debate this week in Houston, because I actually have a ticket that I haven't used. And but I didn't, and he messaged me.
He's a lot of fun to hang out with.
Come to my debate. Yeah, he's great.
He's a lot of fun to hang out with.
I'm really glad to know him.
Him and Michael Jones and Eric Hernandez are the two most fun people in apologetics to hang out with.
Yeah, who?
Michael Jones and Eric Hernandez.
Yeah, that's truth in that.
Bundles of fun.
I was with John McCrae. It wasn't no joke.
I haven't had that experience yet, so I can't say anything.
Derek wants to hang with Michael Jones. Is he as short as I suspect? Well, now,
yes.
Because you asked
yes, the answer is yes.
Because
you're shorter than me, you're short, and he's shorter than me.
Michael Jones, many people don't know this, but Michael Jones has an extensive team of very short men that travel with him and protect him, but also to which he can be compared. And he looks very tall because of that. Unfortunately, and I can't tell you what
he's probably taller than Eric Hernandez.
When we took pictures together, we adjusted for height to make him feel better about things. And now that you've asked this question, because of his army of small theologians and apologists, you're forever banned from Trinity Radio Live, Derek. I never thought it would come to this, but this is what did it. Obviously, I'm joking. You're one of our favorites. All right. Another one from Atheist to Atheist, and we've lost half of our show. This show is the Millennium Falcon of apologetics podcasts. Yes, a hunk of junk that is
constantly trying to repair.
During the fight, right? During the fray. Okay. Thank you for that super chat. Brando's question. For Brando. So many books to read. Would a Christian really benefit from reading atheist material if there are so many important theistic works that may already answer the atheist objection? Now, before I tell you the good answer, I'll give you Norman Geisler's answer. Norman Geisler, beloved apologist who's since passed away, but I was sitting in a breakout one time and he said to the group, he said, yes, I do. I read atheist material every morning for my devotion with God because it makes me feel closer to God to see how bad their arguments are. Norman Geisler. Anyway, that's not the answer that I give. I think it's valuable to read atheist material, thoughtful atheist material, and you don't have to stick around too long to find out. Your Oppies, your Sobols, and even outside of philosophy, people that are thoughtful. I think it's worth it to read those. And if you're interested in apologetics, you're going to need to know what's being said one layer deeper than you might see on YouTube.
I'm with Mortimer Adler on this. There are a lot of good books out there in the world. A lot of good books. There's a lot. You don't have time to read all of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a downer, but there are not but important. Let's reserve that for books that will be read 100 years from now. Okay. And if a book is still being read that's older than 100 years, chances are, whether it's by a Christian thinker or non-Christian thinker, that's an important book to read.
Which one?
Anything in the Western canon that's been around for 100 years.
Yeah.
But a lot of good books will be forgotten in 10. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I want to warn people about is missing out on the great books just to read the good stuff. Because you're missing the great stuff. And so if you don't think a book will be read 100 years from now, bump it down your list.
Yeah.
Whether it's an atheist author or, I think it's more important that you read someone like Sartre than it is Oppie. Not that you shouldn't read Oppie.
You need to read...
but you should go read Sartre first, and then it's not that long
you don't even
to
have to read. You don't have
then go read these atheists.
Listen, we've got one that is a textbook here that's like... it used to. It's like a collection of writings from Sartre, and then somebody giving commentary to explain his thoughts. Because sometimes when you're reading these old existential atheist thinkers, it's difficult to understand what the heck.
Yeah.
But there's great works like that.
Go read Bertrand Russell and then go read Oppie. Don't just read the good stuff after you've read the great stuff.
Okay, we're getting some good questions here.
Finally, right?
Said people who are old enough to remember Space Ghost Coast to Coast are the right age to know Norman Geisler.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here we go. Are there any science fiction or fantasy works that you enjoy from an entertainment standpoint, but disagree with on the ultimate social political commentary they attempt to make? Because almost any show that's come out in the past 15 years feels like it's preaching at me about something, but I do like plenty of shows.
You don't get more secular humanism than Star Trek, the original series.
Love
example.
Star Trek.
It's great. Yeah.
It's not as good as Star Wars, but love Star Trek.
Well, that's debatable.
Let's see. What else do I not like? The Golden Compass.
Yeah.
I read the original the original book. I think there maybe been a bunch, but I read the first one, The Golden Compass. And then saw the movie, and then there's a show that recently started. I don't know if they're going to do more seasons, but I've enjoyed all that. And it's basically supposed to be like Atheist Chronicles of Narnia.
Well, you haven't read the books, but you did watch The Foundation.
The Foundation, I didn't watch all of it, and I need to go back to it. But what I've watched, I enjoyed, and I saw messaging there. Yeah. So, but actually, here's my suggestion to Christian parents out there: don't. Do what you think God wants you to do, honestly. Don't listen to me, listen to the Holy Spirit. However, here's what I do. And that is that if I don't want my kids to watch stuff that the whole point of this is to do that. But if we're watching like the latest whatever movie and it has, or the latest superhero movie or something and it's got that, it's actually a great point to talk about those things. Like we will call it out and you think, well, that's lame. You try not to be lame, but it'll be a little lame. But guess what? You're a parent, you're not a friend, and so be a little lame. And what you do is during a movie, you just say, hey, do you see what they just said there? What do you think about that? Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Well, but, if you read older sci-fi, the messaging was not so overt that when you detected it...
Like Isaac Asimov?
Yeah, for example. Yeah, exactly.
Is that Raised by Wolves guy? Did he do
No.
What was the thing I watched? What was the thing he did that I watched recently that made something? Isaac Asimov. Did he do The Foundation?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it then. Now people can make fun of me for my lack of knowledge about modern literature.
Yeah. But what's the Arthur C. Clarke, for example?
You read that book a couple of years ago, one that he wrote, science fiction.
Yeah, Childhood End.
Yeah.
But the messaging, whether you agree with it or not, you get this, when you detect it, because they never let the messaging get in the way of the good story.
Yeah.
Whereas you see a lot of messaging now overshadowing the story that you're just like, now audiences are like, I'm not watching this stuff. This is just, I mean,
I'm tired of being preached at. Batgirl.
Right.
Batgirl.
Got canceled before anyone got to see it.
Yeah,
right?
$90 million to $100 million. No one's ever going to see it. People will end up seeing it somehow, I'm sure, sometime. But they're saying nobody's ever going to see it.
But the subtlety with which the messaging is, and this is, I mean, that's the same problem that Christians have been railing against Christian films, right? Even Christians themselves railing against. It's like, do like the Book of Eli, but don't sit there and be like, God's not dead, or heaven is for real.
Yeah, what we've seen is,
and then it's just overt, and you're like, this is not even a good story here. This is just lame. This is exactly what we don't want from Christian.
Right, and you know what? That is happening, and I love that now there's at least enough of an atheist culture that they're creating even worse movies than the Christian culture did. For example, Zeitgeist. Everyone said that was absolute garbage.
Yeah,
like
once you take the worst things that Christians are doing and make that your standard, you've gone wrong, right? I mean, if you're using bad, preachy Christian art as your standard for atheist propaganda films, you've gone wrong somewhere. Yeah. I mean, don't do that. I mean, we need to get back to Bach and Beethoven and beauty and all of that in our...
Yes, and beauty is a real thing, and it's objective.
But yeah, and I can appreciate the subtlety of the message that I disagree with more than I can just sit there and go, give me a break when it's so overt and it's just preachy at you and it's snapping me out of the... One of the things that I love about fiction, especially sci-fi fantasy, is being taken out of reality for a little while, right? Checking out to be taken to another place, get involved in the story, whatever, whether it's books, film, whatever. And the second it just, they stop to give you the message, and you're just like, well,
it's like in a movie. Have you ever seen a movie where like you watch the movie and events happen, and it's very clear where this is going, but then at the key moment where everything kind of comes together, they do flashbacks to what you saw not 5 minutes ago to remind you, oh, this is why this is happening. Remember the kid saw this, and it's like, yes, I know the kid saw that. We saw that all happen. Now you got a flashback to the whole movie. Just let it happen, man. I get it. Yeah. And if people can't be that thoughtful, well, then that's their problem. It's just don't put everything out in front.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my one complaint with your fiction book that I read. There was that one dialogue thing. There was one dialogue, I think it was between someone
on free will,
or something that I was like, okay, that's too on the nose, Braxton. That's too on the nose. This is God's not dead territory that you.
There's a little of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was too on the nose. Yeah. But the rest of it was fine. But that was my one complaint. Oh, you did edit it?
No, I admit that that's true.
Right.
Your wife disagreed with you, by the way, but
yeah, but she also
likes pure flicks type stuff.
Nah, not all of it, but she read the Left Behind series, so I mean, I can't.
Honestly, atheist, is there any good conservative theistic sci-fi? Yes. Outside of Lewis, yes. No, that's not hard. Outside. That's not hard. Ted Dekker, I like.
Yeah.
You ever read Ted Dekker?
No.
Well, Ted Dekker has some books that like when it all comes together, it's obviously Christian or something, or there's an obviously Christian message, but that's not typical. And there are some movies you go through the whole thing, or some books that you get through the whole thing, and it's like, I see it there, but he didn't
say Tolkien. He said Lewis, so Tolkien.
Okay. But Ted Dekker, and he has a Narnia type series, but it's modern. And I've never made it through that one, but I've heard that it's amazing. It's like green, white, and black trilogy or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, hope that helps. And I think you could enjoy those as an atheist and not feel like somebody's trying to hammer you with something. Yeah, well, I have written like something like that, dystopian. But Pritchett just said you probably shouldn't read it.
No, I did not. He
gave it a 43% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's not what I did. I thought that overall it was well done. It just gets me when it's just too on the nose, no matter what it is. Right?
Jim Amberg says, I like Kevin Sorbo because of his Hercules days. It's so rough to watch him in bad Christina movies now.
Yeah. Or Andromeda. He did good in Andromeda, the sci-fi show.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. The Demons isn't sci-fi, but it's so very similar to the Ransom series that it should be considered. So, all right, this has been fun. I guess we're coming down to the wire here. We're not coming down to a wire. We're 12 minutes past the wire. Actually, no, we started 12 minutes, 15 minutes late. We've still got 8 minutes to go, but we're not going to. This has been a blast. I'll tell you what. Here is something you need to know. Number one is that all of this that you see.
Hey, Jamie Russell gave us a super chat.
Thank you for
our super sticker.
That slice of cherry pie. I really appreciate that super sticker, Jamie Russell. Really appreciate that. Now
Warrant's going to be in my head for the rest of the day.
Yeah. All that you see, everything the light touches, everything the light touches belongs to Trinity Theological Seminary. And
okay, Mufasa.
Yeah, not the show itself necessarily, but everything the light touches. And you can become a student at Trinity. Did you know that? You can. You can begin your work here, and even say you go with us for a little while, and you want to go somewhere else like Calvary University or someplace. You can do that. But we think you're going to want to come and stay with us. You can. It's done all through distance learning online. You can sit there, and you're in your well, we don't have to talk about that, but your pajamas, I'm assuming, or your nightgown or whatever, and you can take courses and you can earn your degree.
Do people still say nightgown?
I'm married to a 41-year-old woman that says nightgown.
Okay.
So, listen here. You can visit us at Trinity.
Do you wear a nightgown?
Do I wear a nightgown? Do I wear a nightgown?
Do you wear?
We're gonna ditch Pritch because of that comment.
Do you put on drawers or
drawers? If you just mean pants, then yes.
Yes, I do mean pants. But
yes, I wear my drawers.
Pull them drawers up.
Yeah.
People who are old enough for Space Ghost, Norm Geisler are old enough to know who Warren is.
We actually put that up on the screen and talked about that.
But Braxton probably had a childhood where he was not allowed to listen to that kind of stuff, so probably doesn't really have
Space Ghost.
No, Warrant. You probably don't have a breadth.
I know who Warrant. I know who Warrant is, but no, I don't know much about old man music. No. But Atheist said, as long as I like Arcade Fire, and you've made 2 comments now about Arcade Fire. Are you an Arcade Fire fan? If so, just another thing that we can get along about together as friends. But, my atheist friends.
And our Christian friends.
Repent and believe the gospel.
Absolutely.
Now, we're going to go ahead and go. And just finished K2CJB Radio says, just finished my DRS coursework at Trinity, working on academic presentations.
Yeah, here's the thing about academic presentations. Don't be boring. Don't be boring.
Go to Trinitysem.edu, and on the right-hand side of the screen, even if you're not interested now, you think you might want some information to consider it or become interested later, then just fill out some basic information, and you're done. You're done. We'll send stuff to you. We'll contact you, but do that. It'd be awesome. And Atheist is an Arcade Fire fan, and I can't think of a better thing than Trinity Seminary and Arcade Fire to end this show on except this. God loves you. Jesus can be your king. It's an awesome kingdom. I'm glad to be a part of it. Slam RN, I hope you feel better. Thank you for all the super chats. This has all been possible because I don't know how I'll ever thank you for today's episode. And with that, Pritchett, sign us out.
We'll see you next time on Trinity Radio.